hot diggity damn. We are spring breaking. Welcome back to another edition of Draped in Gold, your one-stop shop for NXT content all around the globe. It's your boy Global Boyce, and as always, I'm not alone. I'm being joined by the man who was the originator of Farmer Strength. Give it up for real Jack Farmer. What's going on, sir?
You know, you get the farmer strength the hard way. You know, lifting bales of hay and
Really?
You know, plowing fields and
Tacoma, right? The farms of Tacoma.
In the fields of Tacoma, Washington.
Is that a mountain town? I have no idea what's going on over there. Well, I gotta say, man, how was your week? I know we weren't here last week, but you were doing crazy things. I see your face everywhere, you know, on posters, getting booked.
Yeah, you know, it's been a fun week. I should say the thing that's been on my mind the most recently over the past week, and maybe I shouldn't share this. I don't know, but I'm at that age, Flobo.
Oh yeah,
I'm at that age where
not me, definitely you.
The alarm clock went off one morning. I don't know what happened. I sat up like the Undertaker coming back to finish off a match, and something about it was too fast, and I threw my back out. And for the past few days, I've just been like walking around like Grandpa Simpson because I sat up too quick in the morning. Flo, what's happening to me?
Which was a style at the time. Do you sleep in a casket? Like, how does that work?
I don't know why. I don't know if there's a dream I was having or what, but like the alarm went off and it was just like I shot up super fast and like it tweaked my back.
Yeah. I've heard of sleeping wrong, but waking up wrong is a whole new thing, man.
It was like doubly bad. Like the alarm going off and I hurt my back. It was terrible.
Oh, that is rough. Shout out to Jack Farmer, man, powering through to entertain the masses.
Speaking of farmer strength, my back hurts.
I mean, it's true. I mean, you know, it's just the bales of hay in Tacoma. That's what it is.
Those Tacoma fields.
Tacoma fields. Shout out to everyone watching us live and their various streaming network of choice: Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and X and Trovo as well. And if you're listening on the podcast platform of your choice, Spotify, Apple, please do us a favor, drop that 5 stars. Let us know what you think about the show and how we can improve. I know I'm flawless, but you know, Jack loves to hear those notes.
Well, you know, I want to give a shout out to the folks out in Belgium who are helping us chart over there.
Yeah.
Belgium, you guys deserve those waffles. Everyone else, get to it. Get us on the charts. What are you waiting for?
Do people from Belgium actually eat waffles? That's a question I have.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, if we had American waffles that were like Belgian waffles, I'd eat those all the time. All we got is the IHOP Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruities.
Yeah. Exactly. Not nearly as superior. What's up, Nathan? Gotta say a shout out to that hashtag show every Tuesday night. I go there to get basically upset about how their takes on wrestling are. We're gonna have another collab soon for sure.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about our main event on Spring Breakin week 2 of last week was eventful to say the least, but this one here was interesting as well. NXT Underground gets her first women's contest, and it can be the most intense yet. Natalya with Carmen Petrovic in her corner against Lola Vice with Shayna Baszler in her corner. Well, we all thought Vice City's gonna get burned down to the ground, but guess what? Lola Vice gets the dub, and well, some friendships were tested. Jack Farmer, what say you about this one here this week?
I think we need to just have, instead of Spring Breakin, we need to call one of these shows NXT Friendships Are Tested. This was, I dig these underground matches, and I like how so far they're being used in a way that isn't over the top. We're not seeing them all the time. They're not becoming something that's overkill. But when they happen, it feels different. It makes a matchup that I think otherwise would have felt like standard fare into something that feels really cool to see. I think these two killed it. I think they took a perfect advantage of how this was set up, and they made the best of it. I thought it was really fun to see. And Neeson in the chat, I agree with you. I think Lola Vice is a superstar in the making, and I think that someone like Natalya has been a bit of a gatekeeper in a positive way. And I don't think that young people get matches with Natalya for no reason. I think it means something. And so the fact that Lola Vice had a match with Natalya, a featured match with Natalya, a main event night 2 Spring Breakin match with Natalya, and got the dub says a lot about what they think of Lola Vice.
I got a small gripe though with the NXT Underground match, which didn't really bother me until last night. I don't like the fact I get to see people from the locker room walk over to the underground pit. It feels like there was like something on their assignment chart that day, like, oh, underground duty. Okay, bang, 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 bang. I want to show up and have the fight already there. Let me know their height, man.
Yeah, it was a little weird watching people walk out. It did feel a little bit like yeah, like when you're at an event and someone's got to clean out all the chairs and clean off all the tables, and you see the crew just like walk in to start doing the work. That was a little weird. I would have preferred if we came back from commercial break and they were all out there, but I do think that's a little nitpick.
Oh, absolutely a nitpick.
But
all those nick, dang it. It's my job.
But it's very. But you're right. It was a little like, oh, because it's hard to come out like pumped for that and not look like, okay, I got to walk out for this part of the show,
Day one-ish. Okay, so here's a question, because about the whole Natalya situation. A lot of people are saying on that X and other social medias that Natalya is past her prime. Now, I wouldn't say that. She's the GOAT. She's a Guinness World Record holder. I mean, she is part of that Hart family legacy. But there was a bit of weakness there when her partner, Carmen Petrovic, was being choked out by Shayna Baszler. Now, I understand friendship rules all, but this ain't about friendship. It's about getting the dub. What's going on with Natalya this week?
That's why you can't have friends in pro wrestling. Friends always cost you. I agree with you. When friendships are tested, the friendships fail. It always fails every time. Natalya, if you're in an underground fight, you got to have a killer instinct. You can't be worried about Carmen Petrovic. You can't. I mean, she shouldn't have come out with her in the first place. No offense to Carmen. I just think you need to go in there ready to kill people, not ready to have friendship, not ready to see your pals on the side of the ring. I think that Carmen definitely learned something here tonight. She should have been watching Shayna Baszler, who got involved early and often. And I think she should have been a little bit more active throughout this whole thing. But that said, Natalya, I think you got to do a bit better job teaching Carmen how to handle herself when someone as dangerous as Shayna Baszler is roaming around.
Gotta give shout out to Brian H. Waters, the man himself, the legend. 45 jobs and counting, making it happen for the cultures or multiple cultures as well, man. Thanks for
45. So he quit a few, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Times got hard, man.
He gave up a few of those jobs. Very cool. Yeah, Neeson in the house, Brian H. Waters in the house. Great crew so far.
Well, there. Thanks so much for checking us out. Make sure you come back next week. Okay, so I know we're getting jumping a little ahead.
Belgium, you're gonna have to raise, keep their number one.
Are you scolding Belgium? You only got the 1 week, man. Come on, leave Belgium alone.
It's not. What have you done for me lately? Last week was good, but can we move up a number here this week?
Fair. We were only 24. We're jumping ahead a little bit, but Ava did mention that there is going to be crowning recently a North American champion for the women's division. And of course, it looks like it's going to be a ladder match. It's going to be decided at Battleground, and there's going to be a peek into the NXT Combine. The reason why I bring this up now is that even though Lola Vice got the dub and theoretically should be in the main world title picture, the last time she was up there, she failed. This could be a fast pass to the North American title division. You think?
There's nothing fast pass about this, Flobo. There's a lot of stuff here. I learned something about myself as Ava was talking about this. I mean, we're trying to figure out who the first North American champion is, and you can just have a match, right? You can just figure it out, but no, it's going to be a ladder match. There's going to be qualifying matches. We're going to have combines to take place. 12 people start, one person wins. All this stuff's going on. It's so convoluted. It's so confusing. And I love it, Flobo. I realized I like Heritage Cup rules. I like all this stuff that goes into things. I like confusing situations.
Wow.
This is nuts. And I'm like, this is fantastic. I can't wait to see the combine. I can't wait to see these qualifying matches. I'm into it. I like this stuff. I like confusing setups, Flobo.
I hate it. The whole world is like, let them fight. You're like, we need structure. What the hell? This here is convoluted. I hate it. This give me a match. Give me making sure it's super easy and clean. This guy wants a whole process.
Yeah, I like that every stage of the process is different from the last. It's not like a tournament where it's like, oh yeah, you win matches. It's like, first you got to do the combine. Then you got to do the qualifying match. Then you got to climb the ladder. I love this stuff. And you know what? It makes me realize I go back to when I was a youth and I loved late period WCW. And I'm like, Jack, this is what you grew up on. You love the craziness. You love the stuff that doesn't matter. Let's get a 3-layered cage in here already. I'm enjoying this.
This guy, you are totally a walking meme. If you love WCW, your back hurts right now. That's exactly what this has become. That's exactly what this has become. I hate it. I hate it. I want to know the American title winner to know exactly who's going to be. Niece in the chest is Jada Parker. It looked like she was primed to do that, but everything kind of broke down because when Ava made that announcement of the Combine and the ladder match itself, we had Sol Ruka, we had Ariana Grace, we had Mi Chin. I thought that was going to be enough. Kind of odd. They all came out first and got a chance, but the whole locker room came out. So the question I have for you there, Jack, is if you had an idea of what this division would look like, what do you think the North American title division would be?
Well, Neeson, I agree with you. This is Jada Parker's world. Jada Parker is a superstar. Jada Parker is someone who, I mean, so quickly, it's really, it's impressive. I don't think there's very many people. There's one person who we'll talk about later, I think, who so quickly came into NXT and immediately seemed like someone who is the future of the brand, and is so much so that I'm kind of surprised she didn't get drafted, even though she's so new.
Tell me now. Tell me now.
Tell me now what?
Who's the person?
The other person?
Yeah, tell me the person.
We'll talk about him in a little bit. I don't want to jump ahead. It's a tease. You'll know who the other person is that came in super quick and already feels like a main roster talent. Jada Parker feels like a main roster talent. I feel like she could stand across the ring from anybody right now. If she was in the ring and she had Nia Jax in front of her, I think that she could absolutely go toe-to-toe with her. If she was standing across the ring from Becky Lynch, no problem. I think that she absolutely could be on the main roster tomorrow, and I'd believe it. And so, is this her world? Absolutely. I think that if you're NXT, if you're Ava, if you're someone who is part of the NXT crew, enjoy every day you have Jada Parker, because she is going to be on Mondays or Fridays sooner rather than later.
I gotta ask, even though we don't usually peek behind the curtain with the news of the shakeup of the OTM roster. If you're Jada Parker, do you hang with them or do you kind of go on your own at this point?
I mean this with all due respect to OTM.
All due respect.
That the tag team, I think, has everything you want to be a great tag team. But when she came out and they showed OTM on the screens, I was thinking she's already grown past OTM. I mean, and again, I think that Jada Parker is someone who, like, this isn't, I feel like I'm not being disrespectful. She just leapfrogged that group. Like, I feel like you put someone in a group like that because you want them to sort of.
Can I challenge you here?
I agree with you,
but how? But how?
Right past.
But how? But how? Let me ask you.
How has she?
Is it her look? Is it her moveset? Is it her ring gear? Like, what made you go, this is a star off the gate?
I think it's the confidence. I mean, look, she has everything else. Don't get me wrong. She has all that other stuff. But, like, you look at her on the microphone during this as Sol Ruka was coming out. And Sol Ruka is a personality. Sol Ruka is very talented. Sol Ruka is going to be great as well. I didn't believe for a second that Jada Parker was rattled in any way by anybody that came out there. And I believe that if it came down to it, she would beat the brakes off of anyone that came out there also, outside of Ariana Grace, who's just a treasure. But
the only Ariana Grace fan right here.
But I mean, seriously, I think she's absolutely a superstar in the very biggest way possible. And I think it's, I'm trying to think of, it's kind of like, as I said, I'm an old school WCW fan. It reminds me a lot of when Rob Van Dam joined the Invasion angle of, back in the day. And it's like, hey, he came in to help join this group, but within a few weeks, you're like, oh, this guy's bigger than the group. He's beyond the group already. I feel like that's Jada Parker. Now I know we're getting into back hurting age territory with that analogy, but that's kind of how it was. I think it was just an instant. This person's grown past what this group is.
Well, the reason why I asked that was because of the bigger picture, but Neeson kind of hit the nail on the head. He says it's star power. It doesn't hesitate. She owns every moment, plus can work, plus can sell, plus has a look. And the reason why I'm saying that is when NXT, I guess, do I still say 2.0? I think it's a good marker, but I hate that phrase. When 2.0 started, there was a rush of people, and no one talks about Erica Yang or Ruth Fang, or no one talks about those guys anymore. And they're not. I do, because I thought they all had a chance at that brass ring. But That said, Josh Briggs is there now. Oba Femi had a quick rise to the top. People like that, they say instant stars. I run it's a science, or it really is. Let's throw you out there and see if it's kind of a ethereal connection, or is a they could actually put in a lab and go, here's a hit song. Here's going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, it's Jada Parker. I feel like you can't just assume right away. You do have to test things a bit, but Jada Parker has been around long enough that I think she's proven she has it, and it's not going anywhere. It's not a fluke. Like I said, I think if you had her stand in the ring across from Asuka, I'd be like, let's go. This is awesome. Not, ooh, Asuka's going to kill you. You know what I mean?
That is high praise. And speaking about high praise, let's go also to the women's division, because Thea Hale had a match against her former bestie, now current enemy, JC Jane. And well, this one here was interesting because Booker T really like looking at JC Jane. I mean, wow, Vic, shut up. Thea Hale wins with the Kimura, but it was what happened afterward that got me going, JC Jane's all beaten and bloody, and she got her comeuppance. That's right, I said it. But it's Fallon Henley, former ally, knocking out Thea Hale. But why, Jackery? Why?
Who could have saw this coming?
Oh boy.
Who could have looked back at this and said, you know what? You can't trust a rancher. You know, us farmers have been saying for years, ranchers are the most untrustworthy people in the world.
Who said that?
The farmers do. Farmers have been, look, if you study your rancher history and you study your farmer history, as you should, who needs to know what a mitochondria is? Public school system. Teach us about the history of the farmers and the ranchers. And I can tell you,
it's the powerhouse of the cell. Everyone knows that. I don't know why I know that.
I can tell you, you know who feeds this country, Flobo? It's the farmers. You know who doesn't? The ranchers. The ranchers have always tried to take advantage of people. This is par for the course. Fallon Henley, I saw right through you. I knew this was coming. Ranchers, at it again, Flobo.
I hate when you do this because she was only a rancher for like 6 months. She had a bar. Remember the bar? Where is the bar? But the other question I have is, why now? Why not a year ago if she was that evil? What made her snap this week at Spring Breakin?
Because they like to lure you into a false sense of security. They like to lure you into thinking they can be their friend. That's how they hurt you the most. Neeson in the chat, great comment. Fallon Henley is a star, but yes, ranchers are untrustworthy, like ranch dressing. You'll notice ranch dressing is one of those things too. The big ranch dressing companies, they always like to tell you it goes good on everything. Put it everywhere until it makes you sick and it makes you want to throw up. I agree. Ranch dressing, we got to get out of here with all the ranch.
Okay, what dressing do you use, you high and mighty Jack Farmer guy? What's your dressing of choice?
Farmer's dressing was set to take over the world. It was healthy and delicious. But then ranch dressing came. Ranch dressing came and pulled the rug right out from under us.
Farmer's dressing sounds disgusting.
It was delicious and healthy.
That is just gross. Because her name is Farmer. Okay, anyway. So that said, Thea has a new enemy, and it looks like JC Jane's going another direction, right? Or do you think JC Jane still has some unfinished business?
Yeah, well, JC Jane, I think, hopefully is.
Don't encourage him, Sam. Don't encourage
him. Sam gets it. Lisa gets it. See, we have the smartest folks in pro wrestling in the chat right now.
You're just saying it because I agree with you. That's the only reason why you're saying that.
Great minds think alike.
Oh, I hate this.
Poor Thea Hale. Thea Hale. She absolutely can't catch a break. I mean, but at the same time, you can't. At some point, there's this whole saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. I mean, first, she trusts a for-profit private school.
Yeah,
okay. A couple of us have made that mistake in our lives, whatever. Then she trusts JC Jane. I mean, as the Miz would say, really? You trusted JC Jane? Whose fault is that? And then she goes on and trusts a rancher. I mean, At some point, we got to start blaming Thea Hale. Like, look at who you surround yourself with.
So what you're saying is Thea Hale is a Rey Mysterio of NXT.
Exactly. She's the Rey
Just trusting
Mysterio
everybody.
of NXT.
You can't see everyone being
not
surprised.
just trusted everybody, but trusted clearly the least trustable people on the roster here. I mean, all these people I look at, and you see Ridge Holland, not to jump, shows up. Yeah, I wonder if he's a trustworthy fella. He seems to be pretty straight and narrow lately. Come on, Thea Hale, what are we doing here?
I gotta go right into that one because this one gave me a lot of question marks above my head like a cartoon character. Ridge Holland takes on Shawn Spears. Let's be honest, Shawn Spears has had a chip on his shoulder ever since returning to NXT, but I thought he would be terrorizing the top of the card, but not be on the losing end. Ridge Holland put me in an odd position there, Jack, last week. I wanted to root for absolutely no one. Do I root for the man who's been unlucky to beat people up backstage? Do I root for the guy who brings out chairs and posts scripture on his video package? No, I was sitting there going, bah humbug, I hope this ends, and that's terrible for me.
I am a huge Shawn Spears fan. I always have been. I loved him. I loved him since the 10 days. I think my one complaint, if I must complain about Shawn Spears, he's got one thing I don't like, and it has nothing to do with ranches. He has had a really good run of entrance themes, and I feel like this is the weakest entrance theme he's had. I wish he clearly can't go back to the 10. And I don't know what the
Are you assuming Shawn Spears is Ty Dillinger? Is that what you're doing?
I am. Well, the brothers, I think.
Deep cut Gavin Spears from WWE ECW, but that's beside the
but I wish he could get his AEW music back. I don't know if he owns the rights to that because I don't think that was made by Ruckus. I think that was made by WrestleFlow. I don't know how that works, but that one, like, he had such great music, and I love the other music so much. And this one I'm not super fond of. But that said, I was rooting for Shawn Spears. I'm Shawn Spears all the way on this.
Really?
One. Yeah. Why are you shocked by that?
Because, I mean, look, we don't use insider terms on Draped and Go, but he seemed like every bit the antagonist, coming out with a weapon of choice, telling us that we are not on an elevated thinking plane as much as he did. This is such classic things that antagonists do, don't they not?
Listen, growing up, two people I really enjoyed as a wrestling fan were Bret the Hitman Hart
and
La Parka. Yes, that's exactly where I was going with this. I mean, if Shawn Spears started dance with that chair, he might be my favorite wrestler of all time.
The chairman.
So he hits every note for me. No, but I am a big fan of Shawn Spears. I also like that Shawn Spears, he doesn't try to lie to you. He doesn't try to make you think one thing and do the other. He tells you what he's going to do. He's like, look, I got a chair here. I'm going to hit you with the chair. So be ready for it, pal. Ridge Holland, I don't really get where he's coming from. He's like, I like to hurt people. I'm retiring. I'm not retired. Fair. I didn't mean to slam your hand in the door. I'm going to choke you out. How's Thea Hale doing? I don't know how to think of Ridge Holland. So I like Shawn Spears because Shawn Spears tells me I'm gonna beat you up. I'm gonna hit you with a chair, and then maybe if everything goes according to plan, I'll dance like La Parka. Still hasn't got to that last part yet.
The chairman. Now, you've convinced me. I'm going to be on board with Shawn Spears. Rooting for him. Hopefully, he gets us some strings of wins together and be quickly in the NXT title picture. Last question about this matchup here. Ridge Holland talking with Chase U after the match. Do you think he's going to sign with them, or do you think it's going to be another tease or another trustworthy situation with Thea Hale?
This is. It's very interesting watching those two together, Chase University and Ridge Holland, because Ridge Holland clearly likes to hurt people. Chase University clearly likes to take advantage of people and take their money for their for-profit university. So I don't know. This is like when two people you can't trust work with each other, and you're like, which snake is going to bite the other snake first?
Wait, hold on. If you hate for-profit universities, so were you rooting for Fallon Henley as a rancher to knock out Thea Hale?
Well, at first I thought she was part of the university, so I was booing both of them. And I look, Thea Hale is the victim here, Flobo. Let's be clear. She's the poor student who's going to be rancher saddled with debt later.
We got to move on. This brings us to this week's general manager pick'em. General Manager Jacobs, we're going to ask my broadcast colleague Jack Farmer as if he's the NXT general manager, things what he would do in certain situations. And like we said before, Jack doesn't know what I'm going to ask. Are you ready there, sir? You anti-rancher, anti-ranch dressing son of a gun?
I hope so.
All right. So this week was a WWE draft on SmackDown and Raw. And well, I don't want to speak for everyone, but people have said it's kind of been a disappointing entry this year. But a lot of things people did like was the NXT call-up. So if given the opportunity, would you spin off the NXT draft into a certain separate special on the network, or keep the draft as it is right now?
I think if you're going to do a draft, the whole thing should be based around drafting from NXT. That's always the really exciting part, I think. Yeah, I think you should trade a few people from Raw to SmackDown to keep those rosters fresh. But for most people watching the draft, I think the real excitement is seeing which NXT roster members are going to get the call up. I don't think you can pull that many people from NXT in one go to make it a whole show on its own, but focus on that. That was the stuff people were talking about. The Carmelo Hayes is getting drafted. The Kiana James is getting drafted. All very great drafts. I think both SmackDown and Raw got a lot of great talent in these drafts. But that's the interesting part to me. Absolutely.
Were there any surprises this year, or like who was drafted, who was not drafted?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as from NXT goes,
yeah.
Yeah, there was. I thought Kiana James was a surprise. I think she's going to do well. I think this is going to be a good move for her. And I think it's going to be a good move for Raw. I just thought they would go more with someone who's like a former champion in that case. Also, I think that also goes like a Blair Davenport. I think fits in that role as well. I'd be worried to draft a Blair Davenport. Feels like she injures everybody in the parking lot. So you're going to have to invest in some more security over. Would
you be happy to get rid of the parking lot and have a nice bright day in the parking lot with no injuries now as NXT general manager?
For NXT, yes. Yeah, I'm saying, Nick Aldis drafting Blair Davenport. I don't know if he realizes the danger that's going to be happening in the SmackDown parking lots now. Right. With Blair Davenport lurking in the shadows somewhere.
It's just gonna be a rash of parking lot injuries going nationwide.
Yes,
SmackDown goes from city to city.
There's a police officer with a map, and he's gonna have little pins in the different cities. Like, wait a minute, when you hold up the SmackDown tour, they line up perfectly.
Why didn't you even notice this?
The world's dumbest detective figuring it out like a year later.
The idea, as long as you record and put on YouTube, you could be the star. But in the interest of time, we got to talk about former champions as well. The OC, or the Good Brothers themselves, were in tag team competition, and they actually won their match. But the story here is about their opponents, Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe, who had a little promo beforehand. They were excited to be on the brand, and typically in professional wrestling, debuts are always handpicked for having a first win on the board. But this one here didn't work out for them. You go against the Good Brothers, it's going to be a challenge. And Carl Anderson and your boy, Luke Gallows, gets the dub.
I mean, the OC are going to be a tough out for anybody, especially two guys who are debuting. The OC's been everywhere. They beat everybody. You're not going to get an easy win over them. I think the OC is really primed up for a title shot at the NXT Tag Team titles very soon.
Really?
As long as their commitments to SmackDown don't get in the way. But Tyson and Tariq, man, we didn't really get to see much of them, but first thoughts are they passed the eyeball test. I mean, clearly they are big, fast, strong fellas. They are educated from what they've said in their interview. So I think that they've got the tools there, but you got to get dubs. This is reminding me of a very different OTM in the sense of the OTM. We saw who they were. They told us who they were. They were big, athletic guys, but they weren't able to get the dubs. They weren't able to start stringing together wins. I think Tyson and Tariq need to see what happened there and find a way to get wins, maybe taking on guys that are a little lower up the food chain than the OC, so they can start getting those wins before they find themselves in a very early losing streak.
Look, this is a very sensitive topic, so I'll be the one to take the fall on the sword here. They are looking a lot like OTM. I'm not sure if it's a physical thing or if it's a friendship thing or what have you. Besides the nuances and quirks of one being smart or one loving things that really doesn't translate in moves and holes in the ring, I felt the same way. I was looking at OTM part 2. Not saying OTM is a made group, not saying they need to change who they are, but if you're maintaining this roster, how do you differentiate so many people that have very similar energies? Because again, we're seeing that with Brindley Reese and Thea Hale as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things about, I think, at NXT that is going to be a challenge for them as time goes on. You're going to have so many wrestlers and so many competitors there, especially with the kind of people they're recruiting that are clearly super athletes. These guys are clearly super athletes. And so that's great. But if that's who you are, if everyone is a super athlete, how do you stand out?
Right.
To your point, because OTM, they're super athletes as well. Brindley and Thea Hale, super athletes. They're all people who are like, that's what they've dedicated their lives to, is becoming a super athlete. So when you have a room full of people who are all super athletes, how do you make them all seem different with that? Because you're right. We can talk about how they like to study. We can talk about how they like musculature. But once the bell rings, not all that kind of goes out the window. It comes down to what are you doing in the ring and how are you captivating me in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't mean any of the disrespect, but I really thought that they were going to try them as a couple. The first minutes of their promo, I thought, okay, they're in a relationship and they're till our tag team, but that wasn't the case, it seems. But you're right. Everything else are things you can say about them on commentary, I guess, but I don't think they would translate. But hey, look, super early. It's only one match. I think they showed out pretty well in a bubble. I do think that NXT is giving them the tools they need to succeed, especially if they string together some wins future on. The Good Brothers themselves, I think if I were them, I would try an extended stay on Tuesday nights to make sure that people see your face and get back familiar with you and maybe use that for Friday. But overall, it was a good match for what it was.
Yeah, I think the OC in general are probably going to be hanging out in NXT for a little bit, even though they just got drafted, because Michin obviously has got some unfinished business there. Good Brothers as well. So we'll get to see what they do.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Michin? Scale of 1 to 10?
I'm kind of neutral as a fan. I think she's been around for a while. I think she's someone who carries weight when she's in a match. But I think as a fan of NXT, I feel like I'm the person who's always looking for who the next person is. I love drafts. I love seeing who the next person up is. So I find myself more interested in, I guess, the younger, newer wrestlers that are coming in.
Hot take? Not a fan of Michin. We want Mia Yim. I'm just saying, the Michin thing was great, but look at that win-loss record. I would say Mia Yim had a lot more wins.
Oh, in that case, yeah, I like Mia Yim more than Michin. Yeah, if you're talking about the name, the Michin name never really stuck for me. I don't really get it. To me, when I see her, I still say, "Oh, it's Mia Yim." I don't.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Michin still that just never really clicked.
Well, Michin / Mia Yim made a visit to NXT this week, and also Chelsea Green, which was something I didn't see coming. At the end of the show, after our main event, Ava says that Roxanne Perez will have to defend her title a second time in 3 weeks against Chelsea Green. Now, listen, we all like Roxanne. She's a prodigy. I think this is going to be a formidable challenge, but Chelsea won in gold. Can this be something that would upset the apple cart if she's able to get the dub?
I think it absolutely would upset the apple cart, and I think it absolutely could upset the apple cart. Could you imagine what Chelsea Green could do with the NXT Championship? As she even said, what an accessory to go with all of her different outfits. I think it would look amazing. And this also shows that when you're someone who is plugged in to WWE management the way that Chelsea Green is, you can make things happen very well. She always knows how to get to the manager, how to get their approval. I think that this shows just how valuable it is for what you do outside of the ring, even more so sometimes what you do inside the ring.
Just complaining as they get plugged in. Just complain. That's
your complaint is another person's demand. Wait.
Speaking of demands, let's talk about a North American Championship here on the men's side. It was on the line as Obafemi takes on Ivar. And well, if you like the quote, big man slapping me, you got it, because it was a lot of bacon in that ring this week. Obafemi gets the dub, but it was what happened after I got me some pause. Well, actually, no, before as well, because you had Trick Williams staring down Obafemi, but afterwards, the return of Wesley, Jack Farmer. I mean, your opinions on this. The match itself, Ivar's chances, and the return of Wesley and the North American title mix.
Well, I mentioned earlier there was someone else who jumped onto the scene and seemed like an immediate main roster talent, and it was me, Jack Farmer. No, it was Flobo. No, it was Obafemi. I think he's someone who very quickly says to me, I see him and I go, yeah, I could see this guy on the main roster tomorrow, and I think that he would fit right in. I think that still fits in. I think
there was some doubt after the match, having it taken so long to dispatch an Ivar, that it would be not necessarily a sure thing. But you were saying,
oh yeah, absolutely. I think that someone like Obafemi, again, I could see him standing across the ring from just about anybody, and I could see him doing just fine. And I could see him having some trouble with an Ivar. Makes a lot of sense. Ivar is a veteran. Ivar is probably someone who's built to cause problems for Obafemi more than just about anyone else, because he's just as big, but he's also a lot more agile. So the fact that he had trouble with Ivar, I think, just makes sense. But the fact that he got the win shows that he's still in there. Really, I could see him across from anybody. And again, similar to Jada Parker, it's not just because he's big and strong and can win matches, but he has a presence. I think when he comes out, you feel that he's out there. He's good on a microphone. He never seems like the moment's bigger than he is. And we saw a little stare down with him and Trick Williams. I think Trick Williams, Trick Williams needs to be crossing his fingers and hoping that Obafemi makes his way to SmackDown or Raw. Because if not, that's going to be a big problem for Trick Williams.
Oh, that's for sure. But the North American title division, I would say, is the most hotly contested division in NXT right now, because with Wesley's return and Josh Briggs jaw-jacking backstage, we have a lot of people that want to hit the gold off Obafemi, the ruler. Wesley, back from injury. It looks like he was out for 6 to 9 months. Looks like he's renewed, has renewed vigor, has to go through a lot of challenges to get that championship. But it seems it's a whole different game from when he left the first time.
It's a lot bigger than it used to be, isn't it? I mean, he's coming back, and now he's looking at guys like Obafemi, Ivar, Josh Briggs. This has definitely become this has become a big meaty men division, and Wesley looking very much like an underdog here. I like that Wesley's back. I'm glad to see him, and I'm glad to see what he's doing. I feel a little bit like I'd like Wesley to actually try to move on to something different. I feel like he has been so focused and so tied to that North American Championship that he's losing sight of who he is. Right. And it's kind of becoming a point to me where it's hard for me to think of who Wesley is without the North American Championship. And it's good to have a championship. It's good to be tied to a championship, but I look at someone like a Gunther, who had the Intercontinental Championship for so long, but I don't feel like he's tied to that championship. Now that he's not the champion, I think about all the other things he could do. I'm not thinking, man, he needs to get that title back. Wesley, one of the great North American champions, but it seems like it's constantly, how do I get that title back? How do I get that title back? How do I get that title back? And because he's so tied to it, if he loses, then who is Wesley? I want to find out who Wesley is before I think about him getting championships.
I mean, look, it's a hot take, and I understand that, and I appreciate that. But you and I both know sometimes you go out and do something, and it doesn't really work. You go back to what you know. It's kind of like preseason form, we call it in our industry as commentators and musical professionals. But I'll give you the same thing. Wesley can have a whole new chapter, but he has to go back instantly to tell people he belongs where he does. And you can imagine if you are associated with the North American title. Vic Joseph says he's arguably one of the greatest North American championships of all time, and it's being held by a man that has a fraction of the experience you do when you not go and say, hey, it's my yard, bro.
I mean, if it works out, then this is great. If it doesn't work out, and I just told you how great I think Obafemi is, then Wesley's in a lot of trouble. It's going to be a lot of trouble if he says, look, this is my yard, and Obafemi throws him out of the yard. It's going to be very tough for him to say, well, now the NXT title is something I want. You know what I mean? It's going to put him in a very bad spot. I think that I would have rather have seen him come back and, again, maybe get some momentum. Maybe show me who Wesley is without a championship first. That would have been my move. But
Fair enough.
Again, if he wins, then it all worked out.
I'm actually agreeing with you, but I gotta do something for the conflict of the show.
Of course.
We gotta move on because the top of the show gave me a lot of question marks again above my head, like a cartoon character. Trick Williams is celebrating his championship with a bit of a speech. And no, this wasn't a response to a lack of a promo last Wednesday on another show, another network. Trick Williams were in the quote, whoop that era. But we have ourselves a bit of a mystery. Lash legend, someone who's crossed paths with Trick Williams before, has an envelope and just flirts with it by slapping him over the chest with it a couple of times. Jack, question, what's in the envelope and why is Lash legend the one delivering the news?
Was someone saying this was a response to something?
Yes, if you want to pull back the curtain, is because on AEW, the AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland did not get a promo last week, and Trick Williams got one as being the NXT champion. But I would say that's more of a coincidence than anything else.
But if people said that that's what this was about, I haven't seen anyone. I guess I just haven't seen anyone say that that's what this was happening.
I don't agree with or disagree. I'm just making things happen for relevancy. You know what I'm
saying? In any case, yeah, this is something that I think would have happened regardless of anything else in the world. Trick Williams, I think, showed again just how talented he is. I think this is such an exciting and fun part of the show. And one of the things that, we talk about NXT being a third brand and NXT touring and all this other stuff, and I can see the value in something like that. But I love these crowds, and I love the intimacy of the crowds, because I think the way that this promo happened, the way this segment went down, is only possible because they were in that building with crowd.
What do you mean?
I think if you're in a bigger crowd, the flow of that conversation can't go the same way because you have to project a different way. You have to talk a different way. People are louder, so you have to be a bit more clear. This felt a lot more conversational, and I think it felt more fun because of that. If you're in a room with 15,000 people, you can't have the quick back and forths. You can't have the little lines here and there. And so I think that this is something that
just admit it, Jack. Just admit it. You like puns. That's what it was. It was all the chocolate puns you could have handled.
I like
a piece of that.
I'm a fan of Kit Kats myself.
Oh, the puns. I was like, oh my God. Dad joke wrestling.
I loved it. I thought it was fun. I am very curious to see what's in that envelope. Let me ask you, Flobo, what do you think's in the envelope? Because I think everyone is saying it's a contract for a title match, but I feel like if it was that simple, we would know already. I feel like it's something more.
I actually forgot this in my notes. Shout out to Trick Williams being the fourth Black champion after Big E, Keith Lee, and Carmelo Hayes. I don't know, because I was trying to figure out what could it be. If it's a piece of paper or something like that, it would be on a clipboard because that's the way we do it. I think it's an object. I'm not sure what that object is. If it's a piece of jewelry, anyway, I don't know what the object is, but I think we're gonna go back to Trick Williams' backstory. I felt like that feud with Carmelo Hayes told us everything about Trick today, but all we knew about Trick's past was he's from Philly. He has a mom. And he was friends with Carmelo. I think whatever that is going to be like one of those like, hey, this is what happened when you were a kid or 5 years ago or 10 years ago type of thing. I'm not sure what it is, though.
He's a football player, too.
Oh, yes. And also, does he also box, or that was just a gimmick he had?
You know what? I forgot about the boxing thing. That's a funny thing. I don't know if I have a feeling that wasn't a real thing, or at least not a significant thing, because I think they would have brought that up in the build to Stand and Deliver.
The question I have is, what does Metaphor care? Like, why do they care? What's their deal?
Well, I think what we're showing here is what we've all known. What I've known is that Metaphor just cares about people. Wants to help them out, and so that's why. How Dr. Phil would invite people on his show so they could help them work out their problems and become better people.
He exploited them on his show.
I think that's what Noam Dar is going to do. Noam Dar, a bit like the Mr. Rogers of our generation, in that he invites people to his show so that they can go through problems and we can all kind of become better for it.
I hate you.
Welcome to the land of make-believe, Flobo.
Dr. Phil to Mr. Rogers in the same breath, and he walks away with all of his awards. You are a disgrace. How dare you compare them together? I would make believe. That's pretty cool.
I mean, they're similar, right?
No, not at all. What to be my neighbor versus you need to shut up and put your big boy pants on are two different people. Two different people.
I mean, that sounds something like King Henry or King Friday the 13th would have said.
Wow, unlocked memory. That just took me back. It was like a Manchurian Candidate moment, Winter Soldier moment. Let's talk about our tag team championships. They're also on the line as Axiom and Nathan Frazier. They never slow down because Street Profits told us to remind us they watch the product, taking on Authors of Pain. Authors of Pain are really in dire need of a dub, but they didn't get it here today because Axiom and Nathan Frazier retain with a little help from their friends. New Catch Republic, Raw's newest draftees, alongside the Final Testament, come in and make the save. Now, look, we talk about the wins and losses, but I do think that Axiom Nathan Frazier needed to win this one decisively and cleanly. Didn't make that happen. And two, almost guarantees that AOP and New Catch Republic spill this over on Monday nights.
Yeah, this was a tough night, I think, for a lot of people involved here. I think I gotta put some blame on someone whose name wasn't even said here.
What?
I gotta put some blame on Karrion Kross. That's right. When a team struggles, you go to the coach. This is a matchup that AOP should have got the win for.
Should have.
The Final Testament have had a rough win-loss record. They lost at WrestleMania. They came to NXT. I thought this was going to be an opportunity for them to get their bearings, get things moving again. They go up against a team that is half the size of one of their competitors, and they come up short. At this point, when a team continues to lose, you got to look at the coach. You got to look at the leader, Karrion Kross. You got to figure out something here to get your guys back on the winning track, because this is not a good situation for you. Also, to your point, Axiom and Frazier, you got to get clean wins. This is a tough match, don't get me wrong, but the fact that you needed help is a bad situation. You got to get some real wins here. And in fact, I think Axiom and Frazier need to go show that they can beat New Catch Republic themselves.
Wait, why would they beat New Catch Republic? They helped them out.
I think they got to show that they didn't need the help, and they got to show the world that, look, not only do we not need your help, but we got to beat you in a match to show you that we really don't need your help.
No. I hate my UK friends fight. Stop. They're so cool. They're friends.
And I think they need to do it in the UK and the newly rebranded NXT Europe. It's coming back, baby. Let's do this.
NXT Europe is one of those things in technical vaporware. It's coming. Yeah, Q6. Yeah, it's not coming. It's not coming
After
at
Buzz
all.
TV.
Summer hiatus.
Summer hiatus.
Yeah. I know. The old Enfield town. Slip my jersey. Yeah. But yeah, it was an interesting take. I mean, Final Testament, I'm okay with them not winning because I never got them. But this seemed to just talk. They talk and they talk and they talk and they never get it done. And Paul Ellering can talk and Scarlett can talk, but nothing ever happens of it. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, it's like I said, at some point you got to look at the leader and you got to say, leader, why are we losing all the time? I mean, that's literally what happened with the Bloodline. Even that high, they kept losing. Roman Reigns, nowhere to be seen. And I'm not saying we need to get rid of Karrion Kross, but I'm saying if you're AOP, you're Paul Ellering, you're Scarlett, you're AOP, you got to start looking around and say, hey, boss, this is your job. You got to get us on track.
Where does Final Testament meet to discuss things? I'm thinking the restaurant.
Rainforest Cafe.
Dang. I was like, oh, the restaurant in IKEA, but Rainforest Cafe is so on brand. It's dark and edgy. No, it's not.
I just imagine like we will unleash a reign of terror.
Yeah, do you want more loaded potato wings? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Who else would like a volcano cake?
Why is it black and white in here? And finally tonight, besides the awkwardly filmed inside the SUV promo of Tony D'Angelo and the family, looks like Tony is going to double down his efforts for the Heritage Cup. Now, you like rules in wrestling, and Tony D'Angelo just 3 weeks ago was a #1 contender for the NXT Championship. Excuse me. I like the Heritage Cup, but this may seem as a downgrade there, sir.
So I love rules. I love the Heritage Cup. I said it every time I'm on here. it's a bad look
Bad
that
look.
every single person who seems to challenge for the Heritage Championship has to deep dive into what the rules are before they challenge for it. The fact that no one knows what the rules are and they're the number one contender is not a good look.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's very similar to if, you know, a boxer decided to do MMA, was getting a UFC championship shot, was like, by the way, what am I allowed to do in UFC?
Oh, that's terrible.
Like
That is awful.
That's and it's not just because Tony's like, hey, I got to figure out the rules here. But before that, you had Von Wagner doing the same thing. You know, everyone who's going after it always has to remind themselves, like, how do I do this again? So it's just it's a bad spot for the Heritage Cup. The fact that no one even knows the rules is a little frustrating as a fan of the Heritage Championship. So hopefully people figure it out. Hopefully people start to learn the rules, because I do think that if those matches are done properly, like they were in NXT UK, they're very fun to watch and very exciting.
Is the Heritage Cup salvageable? Or is it pretty much going to be something that's going to be in the background, like the 24/7 championship, like the light heavyweight championship? Is there a way to bring that championship cup to the forefront?
As a fan of the Heritage Cup, I feel like I have to say this all the time because people will clip out one thing you said and they'll miss it. I love it. I don't think it's meant for a brand like NXT, because NXT, particularly the NXT since the 2.0 era started, the Heritage Cup's about history. It's about going back to the old days. It's about heritage. 2.0 is the opposite. It's about what's new, what's fun, what's fresh, what's cool. These are two clashing brands and styles. I don't think you can have both. It's similar to, again, using the UFC example. If the UFC had a like Greco-Roman Olympic wrestling championship.
Wow.
Like that's not what we do here. That's not how UFC works. And I feel a little bit like, I love the Heritage Cup. I just don't feel like it fits in what NXT is anymore.
I agree with you, maybe for a slightly different reason. I felt like the Heritage Cup worked in the UK, besides the historical part about it, because it was the secondary accolade. You could not be NXT UK champion or WWE UK champion. You went for the Heritage Cup. But you had the North American title, which I literally said plenty of times on the show, it's more highly contested, and that's a secondary championship. What would motivate somebody to go for the Heritage Cup unless they wanted to sit on it? And we saw what Noam Dar did. He totally took his sweet time to end that cup, to be honest with you. So it's kind of rough. I do think it's a cool thing, but as it goes on, it's getting harder and harder to defend the existence of this Heritage Cup.
Well, in NXT UK, I mean, I guess to the similar point though, is there were people like Charlie Dempsey. Like Charlie Dempsey fits that championship great. But in UK, there were a lot of people who had similar kind of styles and things where they were interested in that kind of match and that kind of fighting and that kind of wrestling. And so there were people that you would say, yeah, I could see them wanting that championship. Where I can't imagine Trick Williams, for instance, being like, yeah, I want to fight the old historical United Kingdom way. Yeah. You know, I can't imagine Wes Lee being like, I really care about fighting the old historical way. You know, people want to, they're there for what's new. They're there for what's cool, not the historical side of things, even though I love it.
Well, if you're listening right now, let us know how you would say the Heritage Cup if given the chance. We have one more thing to do before we get out of here. You know what that is. Now time for my favorite segment of the show. It's the MVP of NXT. The praise. The MVP of NXT is that one person or tag team or staff member that stuck out for you the most this week on NXT Spring Breakin' Night 2.
It was a hard night, but I do think that the person who really had the opportunity to grow the most and really change the course of their life and become a better person is Thea Hale. She learned you can't trust a rancher.
I actually have Fallon Henley as being the MVP of NXT because I would
sympathizer.
Yes. This kid from Brooklyn is totally sympathizer. Give them a chance. No, because sometimes you got to step out of a shadow and go on your own. Why be everyone's friend? You told me week in and week out, it's not about friendship. It's about making matches and dubs and money. Why not go on your own? Has to be found in Henley. Sir.
I've always known you and your Brooklyn home, hidden away your ranch toys.
You know what's funny? In my backyard growing up, with my backyard, full stop. I actually had a peach tree for the first 8 years of my life, and then it got old and it died. So people were like, "Oh, I got peaches." Like, from where? My backyard. But you live in New York. I go, "Yeah." They're like, "No." They thought I was lying about having a tree in my backyard. It was weird.
Yeah. So that brings you closer to farmer than rancher, though.
That's what I'm saying, and we love farmer strength.
Yeah, farm. I mean, farm, backbone of America.
Apparently, Draped in Gold.
Ranchers, the hooves.
Leave Ranchers alone. I'll be back here next week to break down everything about NXT, and we're definitely going to have a women's title matchup to talk about, and so I'm looking forward to that. But Jack Farmer, if someone's watching this and say, "Hey, how many farms are there in Tacoma?" Let me ask the guy who knows how to go about doing that.
You can follow me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. I got a couple of shows that will be posted up soon. One is with Majestic Marie, who is a great podcaster called Peaches and Power Bombs. That'll be going up. I was interviewed. Very fun. Also, I got to interview David Penzer, WCW ring announcer. That is going up on the Wrestling Chatter very soon. But you can also check me out on Wrestling Inc. And I'm going to be doing commentary for Prestige Wrestling on May 16th. You can see that on IWTV, and that main event, Flobo, it's going to be incredible. It is Shelton Benjamin versus Josh Alexander. So that one is going to be very exciting. I'm very pumped to see that one. Everyone check it out at Real Jack Farmer.
Okay, fine. I'm going to TJ Maxx today. I'll also take that. Okay. It's because you're doing stuff. I'm not impressed. I'm not jealous. That's fine.
Why don't you go get your ranch hand clothes at TJ Maxx?
I live in LA now. I don't want to get in the car and drive to a ranch. All right. Anyway, I'm getting out of here. Drapedandgold.com is a website to learn about the show, or you can follow me on that X at Flobo Boyce. And as I sit here and try to understand the rules of the Heritage Cup, I make sure you guys have a fantastic week and a fantastic Cinco de Mayo. That's coming up for those who celebrate here. But until next time, Jack Farmer, say the words.
Do your best and be yourself.